Hey, I'm looking for Fred Rogers.
In here.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Please won't you be my neighbor? Hello, neighbor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Film Optics. And today we're going to be talking about a beautiful day in this neighborhood. And I'm joined by Devin. And my name is Christian. How are you doing today, buddy?
Will you be mine?
Will you be mine?
Neighbor.
Please, won't you be my neighbor? Hello, neighbor. And as you can tell, we're going to be reviewing A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, directed by Marielle Heller, and stars Tom Hanks, Matthew Rhys, and Chris Cooper, just to name a few. And let me read the synopsis here really quick. The synopsis reads, based on the true story of a real-life friendship between Fred Rogers and journalist Tom Junod, I think. That's what it looks like it's spelled like. And before we begin today's review, you can listen to us here on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and Anchor. And you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all previously mentioned, at Film Optics. Optics is spelled O-P-T-I-X. So let's just get straight into it, man. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It was fantastic.
It was beautiful.
It was very beautiful. It's fantastic in every way. And honestly, I didn't expect this much out of this movie. It was kind of like an episode of Mr. Rogers.
Yes, I thought it literally was an episode of Mr. Rogers. Like, I thought the director going that route was genius, because it was a perfect way to express what the story was telling.
Yeah, and it really shows. They even shot on the original set, the original
in Pittsburgh,
PA, absolutely, where Mr. Rogers is from. If you don't know that, and they also shot with like the original cameras. It was crazy. It was like a long length feature film of a Mr. Rogers episode. Absolutely. This one definitely, we've, this is the fourth review we're actually tackling here in little spurts here. And I felt the same. I felt something just as much as, I did with Marriage Story and Honey Boy. Like this was just the perfect movie, and it really made you think. With Matthew Rhys' performance, he was a bit of a dick, but that's kind of expected. He's kind of Mr. Negative. I can't really say down on his luck. He was just very pessimistic,
just cynical.
Yeah, very, very, very cynical. He didn't have a very wonderful outlook on the world, and we get all up in his, the reasons why, between him and his father, and that is something very hard to forgive. And I really liked how, Mr. Rogers said, today we're going to talk about forgiveness, and he explained it so. It was such a simple explanation,
and the way they set it up, it was pretty trippy. Like, they were like blending the two worlds together, and I was like, whoa, this is kind of weird, but it worked.
It really did. And between the overview, the little toy cars, and the planes.
I love the scene transitions that use the little versions of the city and stuff.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, man. I think this is. Tom Hanks is a phenomenal actor, and
there's no one else that can play Mr. Rogers. It had to be Tom Hanks.
It did, and
of course they're related. It turns out.
Are they really? I didn't know.
There's 6 cousins.
Really? Oh, that's wonderful. That truly is wonderful, isn't it, Devin?
Yes, wonderful.
He just I really like how they Mr. Rogers. Fred Rogers is actually a big fan of Tom Hanks. found that out from a Let Me Explain video that we watch routinely. So I thought that was very
one of the best out there. He is.
Yeah, definitely. I encourage anyone to go check out his content. It's called Let Me Explain. It's on YouTube. He does a great job of literally. I think it's him and his girlfriend. His girlfriend edits, and he does his own spiel, and yeah. But also, I really wanted to talk about for this movie. Everyone views Fred Rogers as some type of saint.
Yes.
And and they said this on Let Me Explain. They even said this in the movie. With his wife. We call him Raj at home, is what she said.
He's not Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, she's like, well, we don't call him Mr. Rogers at home, dear. I was like, oh. Mrs. Rogers. Oh my gosh.
I love like the contrast between him and his wife. His wife was much more like down to earth and just relaxed about everything, and not as
she had she had just much of a wonderful insight as Mr. Rogers, and she's talking about she doesn't like it how people call him a saint, because if you do, that means
he's unattainable.
He is unobtainable, and people are like, I want to be like Mr. Rogers one day. I want to treat everyone that I meet as if they are special, and as if they everyone's going through something, and people just want to be heard. And I feel like Mr. Rogers did that, and he took the time to learn everybody's names. He would pray for literally everyone, and just right back to like almost literally every single person who wrote in on the show. And he has his own demons. He is human, and I agree with what Mrs. Rogers was saying about him being a saint, because if you want to aspire to be like someone, it's like, oh, you can't aspire to be a saint. They're a saint, they're perfect, but nobody's perfect, not even Mr. Rogers. And no matter how people viewed him, like, yes, but like, we don't know everything about him. I believe there is an actual documentary out there that I would actually like to check out.
You have to watch it. So good.
Is it on any?
It came out last year.
Last year?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll definitely have to check. I'll have to do some research to see if I can find it. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. It's the way that he's Tom Hanks speaks is so soft spoken, and he's just. It seems that even with with Matt Rhys' character, he's like he's like, nobody's this innocent.
Yeah.
But his
wife's like, I don't want you to ruin my childhood hero.
Yeah, and we've talked about that at length with people are like, oh, you ruined my childhood. But I understood where she was coming from with this, because every single person that Tom, the journalist that Matt Rhys plays, every single interview that he comes across, people love interviewing with him, but they don't like the things that he says about them when he profiles them. And everyone that that they were trying to get him the profile said no, but Mr. Rogers said yes. And Matt Rhys is like, oh, he's like, you love people like me. And Mr. Rogers, he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, broken people. And he's like, I don't think you're broken. And he just, I don't know, man. I just absolutely love this.
I think one of my favorite lines was when one of the first times they were on the phone, and Mr. Rogers said, the most important thing to the world to him right now is talking to Lloyd on the phone. He just found a way to make everyone feel special, and everyone was special to him, and he recognized people as people.
Yeah, and there was the oh my gosh, what was it? He said anything that's obtainable is manageable. No, that wasn't it.
Anything that's mentionable is manageable.
Yeah, anything that's mentionable, yes, anything that's mentionable is manageable, and that was just. I mean, man, like when I went to go see this, I thought I was going to be the only person in the entire theater. That's how it was until the boomers came in. But I can understand why the boomers came in, because everybody loves Mr. Rogers. And me growing up, when my mom had to get up really early for work, and she would take me to my babysitter's house. And my babysitter, her name was Miss Kelly. I absolutely loved her. And she only had basic cable, so I was watching. Mr. Rogers is on like almost all the time. Between those like 3 or 4 channels, I would switch between, you know, watch Teletubbies and freaking oh my gosh, Zuboomafoo and all that jazz. But yeah, Mr. Rogers, you know, when it came on, I always thought it was a very odd show growing up, but I still watched it, not only because not because there was nothing else to watch at my babysitter's house, but I just, for some reason, it just mesmerized me, and I don't know, I just watched it, and I was like, this is all right. It's weird, but I like the guy. He's just so soft spoken. He just knew how to talk to everyone, and he was just phenomenal with kids. We even see that in the film where when Matt Rhys' character goes to interview him for the first time, and they're trying to start filming, and Mr. Rogers is taking the time out to talk to a child and his parents, and you know, the kid's not really listening at first, but you know, he eventually gets his attention. He's like, oh, he's like, that's a mighty sword you got there. He's like, it's very heavy. You must be really strong to hold that sword. And then you gotta watch the documentary. There's a scene just like that, but it's the real Mr. Rogers. Oh, just like tears. This movie definitely teared me up, and you know, the reactions that he has with Tom in the movie, and you know, he's like, oh, he's like, how'd you what happened to your face? And he's like, I got into a fight. And he's like, oh, who'd you get into a fight with? And you know, Tom kind of gets annoyed that, you know, the power shifted. You know, it makes it seem that Mr. Rogers is interviewing him, but he's really not. He's really just asking him what happened. He's like, I know that we're interviewing, but he was just genuinely concerned about him. And you know, people in Pittsburgh take Mr. Rogers very seriously. So same with Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. Jeff Goldblum Day. It's a thing. Jeff Goldblum. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's crazy. Did you have anything else to touch on? I'm sorry, I've been ranting on here for a while. I really like how it subverts expectations, because going in, I'm pretty sure everyone thought it was just going to be Mr. Rogers biopic, when that's not what it is at all. Right. It focuses on Lloyd Vogel and his family, and that's what the whole story centers around. And I think I like that a lot more than what a biopic would have been, because it shows the impact that he had on regular people, from an outside perspective. Right. Yeah, and I didn't really. And see, I didn't know if this was a biopic going in, because I knew that you know, the actual biopic or that movie was out there. I don't know what it's called. I got to look it up. Won't You Be My Neighbor? Oh, it's called Won't You Be My Neighbor. Okay. Because I think I got confused. I thought A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood was that, and I was like, I thought this movie already came out. I'm like, oh, it's a different movie. Okay. Won't You Be My Neighbor? But yeah, I didn't think this was a biopic, but I didn't really know what to think of it, to be completely honest with you. I thought it was, you know, just someone, this is going to be more of just like an interview movie that was only going to last maybe an hour and 30 minutes. It ended up lasting almost 2 hours. The runtime is around an hour and 49. And it is technically considered, you know, on IMDb at least, a biography / drama. So, but I wouldn't really, in a way it is a biopic. But I do think that Tom Hanks just blew it out of the water, as he does with pretty much any film that he's in. He kind of looks like Mr. Rogers a little bit too. They really a little bit. Not a lot. Yeah, I mean they definitely had to dress him up, but I mean he got his mannerisms down. You know, when he first walks in, he takes off his coat jacket and he puts on his red sweater, changes over his shoes. I'm like, that was very very smooth, and I don't think a lot of people can pull that. I don't know if anyone else could pull that off, because it's like, who do you get to play Mr. Rogers? You know what I mean? That's like saying, like, you know, I've been hearing like whispers of like a Michael Jackson biopic. It's like, who are you gonna get to play Michael Jackson? Who? I can't think of a single soul on this earth who could play as Michael Jackson. And I had thought the same thing with Mr. Rogers, and I was dead wrong. Being two totally different icons, I just, man, it was just a wonderful time. It really made you think. And I really appreciated when they're in the diner with Lloyd, and, you know, he said that he wants to take a minute to for him to think about all the important people in his life, and everyone just stops like talking.
And that man stares into your soul. I was not ready for that.
I was not ready for it either. And
it makes it have much more impact though, because he's like, you are included too. Come join us.
And I was like, oh, me? Like I'm just
little old me.
I'm just a passerby. Yeah, little old me. I'm just a passerby. I'm just here to watch your movie, dude.
Apparently, the director added that part in afterwards because he was supposed to look down at the table in the first couple cuts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she added the part where he stares into the camera.
That was a very powerful moment.
And I love the direction overall. I thought she did such a good job with everything.
Yeah, it was. I mean, even with when Lloyd makes amends with his father, and Mr. Rogers comes by to just visit everyone, and then Lloyd's sister is there with her husband. He's like, holy shit. He's like, oh my God. It was like, you would think Jesus has walked into the room or something, but
and I love how they brought up the thing where people think he's like a Marine sniper.
Yeah,
that's been a thing going on for years now. People thought he was like a sniper who's got like tattoos on his sleeve, so he has to wear the cardigan to cover it up.
Yeah, that was.
I love how they made a joke about.
He was
that.
like, "Are you a sharpshooter?" He's like, "I just heard it." He's like, "No, no, he is not. It would be cool, but no." But it just becomes a humble man after his years of service. Making kids television shows, making people smile across America. But man, oh man. But yeah, this movie definitely had me jerking at the tears a little bit. Same as Honey Boy and Marriage Story, as I've mentioned before. It just a lot of emotion. Just overall, I
also love the little parts, like towards the end when they're all in the room together, and then he asks the wife if she's ready to have a babysitter yet, and then he calls me too. Like, yeah, he was that's so cool because Mr. Rogers would actually call the wife as well because he wants to have a relationship with everybody.
Yeah, I love when the wife, when she first talks to him on the phone, she was like, "Mr. Rogers knows my name." Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, like we're practically best friends. But with Mr. Rogers being in, he was, I guess you could say, in a pursuit of Lloyd, because it wasn't, what Lloyd was thinking, like, oh, you love broken people like me. He just loved connecting with people, and there was something inside of Lloyd that he knew that was clearly troubling him, and that Lloyd had the biggest grudge in the world against his father, and it was so hard for him to forgive his father for messing around with other women, whoring around with other women while his mother was dying in the hospital. And
that scene was very powerful when he mentions his mother was screaming as she was dying.
It was just you could definitely feel, it's like, oh, I totally understand why this character is so cynical, why he's so Mr. Negative, and just, even with his father, we begin to a fight during the beginning of the movie. I was not expecting that at all. I was like, oh man, all right, mister, let's go.
Yeah.
But it was just it just really makes me think, I really want to see this again too.
Yeah, and I mentioned it when we talked about the trailer. That subway scene, it gets me goosebumps every time. I love it so much. And Mr. Rogers, he transcends race, gender, religion, nationality, age, everything. He's just a human who cares about humans, and that's so
He's
rare.
a humanitarian. But even they kind of touched on, he touched on so many dark concepts, and I love how when he was talking about death and how it's human, it's to we all eventually pass away, and that it's human to it's not something that we like to talk about at all. And it was just, I don't know, they're trying to plan trips, with the father, like, oh, let's go to Disneyland or whatever, like, wouldn't that be great, Dad? And his dad's like, oh yeah, like if I'm still here. And then it just gets like really quiet and very uncomfortable. And then he just knows what to say.
Yeah.
At the right time. And it was I love this movie, man. It was everything I was hoping for and more. I'm a big Tom Hanks fan. My favorite movie, Tom Hanks, is till this day will always be Forrest Gump. Because I used to watch that movie a lot when I was a kid. I absolutely love it. I've actually never seen Big, but I hear that was also one of Mr. Fred Rogers' favorite movies as well. Because I feel like he embodied the soul of a child. And when he was talking, when Mr. Rogers was talking to Lloyd's father, when he was whispering to him, and he asked him to pray for Mr. Rogers, and someone who's that close to passing away must be very close to God, and it does show that that Lloyd's father was trying to turn his life around, and he found
it's kind of similar to Honey Boy in that way.
Yeah, it really is. I'm just I'm lost for words. I'm sorry. It was a great movie overall. What you want to give your scores?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this one the best of our little bunch we've had today. The best of the four. I'm gonna go with a 93.
Oh, a 93. I'm gonna go with a 9. I'm gonna go with the 94. I'll go with the 94. Let's one up you there a little bit. I don't want to ruin the Marriage Story streak there. It's up there, but I mean for biopics, this is definitely just something that everyone can take away from. It really, really makes you think afterwards about
and just Mr. Rogers in general. And
yeah,
we need him today more than ever.
And it's more of when he's talking about forgiveness. I feel like a lot of people now today are very quick to judge, but they have a very hard time forgiving others. And that's a very important thing because, as we see with Lloyd, that, holding grudges and, not forgiving people for something that they've done wrong, because we've all done something wrong within our lives. Nobody is a saint. And, when people judge others for like, oh, I can't believe you did that, I would never do this, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, I mean, to be honest, you can't sit up here and say that you've never wronged someone in some way, shape, or form within your life. Because we are human, and to be human is imperfect, but we can strive for perfection. We can strive to be like Mr. Rogers. We can strive to be like Jesus. We can strive to be like whoever.
John Wick.
And most importantly, Shia LaBeouf.
And Keanu Reeves.
and Keanu Reeves for sure. Absolutely.
Keanu Reeves is kind of like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, he really is a very mindful person, seems very personable with everyone he meets.
Yeah.
I think he's in his 50s.
50s?
Doesn't look like
yeah.
I really hope they make a was it Ted and Billy adventure? I hope
Bill and Ted's. They are.
Are they really? Oh
yeah, it's coming out next year.
Oh, that's good. Hey, dude, don't be down. Oh man. All right. So I think that concludes our beautiful day in the neighborhood review.
I think one other thing I wanted to mention that
go ahead.
That Let Me Explain mentioned in his video. The director chose to go with, I think they called it a French schedule or something like that. French shooting schedule where they only shot 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
In order to have more times with their family, because that's what Mr. Rogers would have wanted, obviously. I think that's really great.
Yeah, I feel like that's very important as well, because it's even with Lloyd within he's flying between New York and Pittsburgh, going back and forth, and I mean he does spend some time with his family, but it really shows how much time work can take away, and it kind of loses sight of what's important in everyone's lives, and I totally forgot about that too as well. Yeah, so so
bravo to Marielle Heller.
Bravo indeed, and hopefully maybe with some Oscar buzz, because like you said, between this movie and even with Jojo Rabbit, I think those are two very important films that we need right now to make the world a better place. So with that said, I believe that concludes our review here of A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And as always, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. You can listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and Anchor, all at Film Optics. Optics is spelled once again at as OPTIX. My name is Christian, and this that was Devin. As always, buddy, thank you for coming on and reviewing these. We got some fun movies coming up. Like Rise of Skywalker comes out soon. Man, I'm so excited. Uncut Gems, Waves and all that stuff going on. And before we end this here really quick, wanted to let everybody know that we are doing a digital code giveaway. I bought a lot of movies during Black Friday. A lot of digital codes I will be keeping. There was a lot of them I'll be giving away, and we're going to be giving away the full trilogy of Matt Reeves' Planet of the Apes digital code giveaway. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter to keep be updated with that. That will start on December 9th and on this Monday and end on the 15th. So a little bit close to a week for that. Enough for people to enter and get the word out, what have you. So we have that going on, and I believe that does it, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Hey, Mr. Rogers! It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Please won't you be my neighbor?
That was wonderful.